Hello everybody, time for a long video. Welcome to the office. Yeah, I have to earn my money here somewhere, so therefore time to make a longer video. No, actually I don't make any money from YouTube videos. In case you don't know, this channel is so new that I don't even qualify for being a paid content creator. But it literally doesn't matter to me because the purpose of this channel is to educate everybody about the true potential of investing in NIO, and that's what I'm here for. All right. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit convoluted. That's the best way I can explain it. It is not as straightforward as it looks on surface because I want to utilize some of the comments I received in the last few videos and addressing some of those comments and telling you guys based on my underground experience why NIO has such a large amount of employee base and why on paper NIO is not nearly as efficient as to buy, for example, Tesla. But NIO is highly efficient compared to someone like Porsche. Okay, let's get going. So one thing that is not obvious to people who have never gone through the sales process of NIO before is the people who NIO hire to become their sales staff are not just randomly picked from the automotive industries. When I was in China, I had extensive experience with many different sales staff, and one of the first thing I asked them was always, "What's your educational background? What did you study? Why did you end up selling cars here?" And this was very interesting to observe. I asked the same question to other brands as well. But among all the brands of the people they hire to sell cars, particularly among those people who do direct sales model, like Xiaomi, NIO, Li Auto, and so on, one thing I found out is that on average, the salesperson for NIO is significantly more tech oriented. They sometimes have studied AI, sometimes they have studied business management, but a lot of them actually have genuine automotive backgrounds. Yes, a lot of those salespeople you see standing around in the showroom of NIO actually come from technical backgrounds. So they have the ability to understand what they're selling. They also have the ability to explain to their high value customers what are they exactly selling. This is one interesting difference. The second difference is that NIO itself, compared to, let's say, BYD, for example, the way how the second sales, the third sales happens is completely different. So in BYD, when you buy one car, they sell you the car, and then after a few months, they're gonna ask you, "Would you like to upgrade? We can upgrade your car cheaply because they're selling on price," and you're gonna get pestered with countless amount of after sales inquiry to sell you even more cars. In case of NIO, the after sales is completely different. It is a personal experience. Basically, the salespeople are trained to understand your needs, but on top of the needs that you have as a car owner, they also try to figure out what's your social needs. So, if, for example, if you are a lonely older man who bought a car because you want to travel somewhere, they will periodically send you the updates about which groups they can join, which customers they can meet. So basically, give you what you are looking for, a a social context for the car purchase. And what they are actually trying to do is influencing you, the purchaser, to become a promoter for the brand. Because the best salesman for any car brand is a happy owner of the car. And this is the biggest difference between, for example, mass volume sales like BYD and NIO. I'm not sure about Xiaomi and Li Auto, but Xiaomi recently had a lot of trouble with the quality, and some of the customers died in a car crash because the doors couldn't open. So there was a big reputational hit to the Xiaomi brand, and a lot of people were canceling the cars. But something like this has actually never happened to NIO. And quality complaints also plague brands like BYD, which is very rare for NIO. And to investigate all this, I have actually watched a lot of YouTube videos in Chinese that talked about being an unhappy customer of NIO. And here's one thing I have learned from those videos. There's only like 2, 3 channels that made those videos. I watched all those. And to summarize this, people who are not happy with the NIO for one reason and one reason only is that NIO lowered the price for older model aggressively, therefore made the existing owner losing money. However, they have never complained about quality, nor have they complained about the customer experience, which is very, very important for a high ticket item like NIO. Because ultimately you're competing on quality, not on price. You want to be the next Porsche. You actually don't really want to be the next BYD. So what I want you to do today is the following. Utilizing AI to your advantage, I'm going to teach you a few ways to use Deepseek to do some in-depth research about NIO the company in the way that you don't expect to do. The reason is because I have seen quite a few comments saying that NIO is not efficient. NIO has too many employees compared to the cars they sell, and NIO has too many people in R&D that is not producing any tangible assets. All that is valid criticism. However, one thing I want you to do is using Deepseek, you should ask Deepseek the question is the operational efficiency between NIO and Porsche. And then you're going to see Deepseek does not just look like overall employee numbers. Deepseek also look at the composition of the employees. And then it will come to the conclusion, at least in my case of my search, is that NIO is a significantly faster growing company with significantly more efficient staff in every aspect of the business, and capital intensive nature of the business dictate that they have to invest in research. And NIO actually is one of the few companies that truly does not skimp on research, because ultimately your future sales will come from superior technological products. And most likely, one thing that AI even cannot predict is in the future, NIO will become a software company. And in case that is really going to happen, the margin is going to go through the roof. But at the same time, the ratio between the vehicle manufactured versus how many employees you have will go into basically infinite. Because ideally, I really don't want NIO to make any cars. Ideally, NIO should have 0 employees in car manufacturing. And if it's necessary, NIO can also outsource the dealership models to third-party dealers, similar to what BYD did and similar to what Porsche has done, what BMW has done. I don't see that as a big problem. So if you look at the employee number versus car sales as a significant metric to evaluate different businesses, you have to understand those are fundamentally different management principle behind each individual car companies. They are not doing the same thing. They are not just selling a car. In case of NIO, they are locking you into an ecosystem, and they will try their best not ever let you go. So I want you to keep that in mind. It's the ecosystem that you're paying your money for as a shareholder. You are not paying for employee accounts. You're not even paying for the factories that they own. You are also not paying for the dealership networks. None of that matters. What you're paying for is the ecosystem potential. And that right now is valued at absolutely 0. And what I want you to see is whatever the share price we are paying right now, it is basically a combination of future value for the ecosystem plus time value for the company. Because actually, there's not much equity value left. So the only value left is time value. For equity value to go up, the company has to do a spin-off or delisting or privatization or let's say separate listing of an individual entity within the company. If that can happen, then definitely we'll be looking at significantly higher equity value. Okay, this is something you have to look at it not just from a bookkeeping perspective. More importantly, you have to look at it from the future valuation perspective. Think about this company as a technological powerhouse that is going to be the supplier for the software and the underlying technology for all other EV companies around the world to utilize. Because in the future, it will be just simply too expensive for each individual EV companies to operate its own operating system, similar to the smartphone system today. The reason why we only have two operating systems left, despite the fact that the initial stage of smartphone generation from 2002 to 2008, there were hundreds of different operating systems for different smartphones. You might not know, but now we only have Android and Apple left. It's because the software side is the economy of scale business. And NIO is trying to do exactly just that. I want you to see NIO is like a combination of Apple and Google to provide the software platform for all the future EV in the world, particularly for high price EVs. And this is the reason I think that ultimately the end game will happen something like currently the largest individual shareholder, CYVN from Abu Dhabi, uh, they might just end up buying the whole company. Because if I'm them, I would. Why not? If I'm them, I'm going to buy NIO as the software supplier. Then I'm going to continue the buying spree. Not just McLaren gets bought. McLaren is already bought by CYN, VN, CYVN. I don't have a screen, so I'm making everything out of thin air right now. So next one, they can easily buy Lotus because Lotus actually does not really fit into the portfolio of Geely. I think ultimately Geely will sell Lotus to someone like the Abu Dhabi fund, or sell it to NIO, or merge with NIO, or something like that. That's entirely possible. They're already using NIO Tech. They might as well just sell it off to the same holding companies. And in the future, maybe even Bugatti, Lamborghini, and those brands. I can think of quite a few other brands that cannot survive on its own, but they have tremendous brand value, like Aston Martin, for example. There's no way Aston Martin can develop its own operating system. They have to buy it off the shelf from somebody. And who can they buy it from? Do you think they're going to buy it from BYD? No way. They have to buy it from a good supplier that can supply the highest quality expectation, like what their customer base is expecting. So Bentley, Rolls-Royce, those brands, I think sooner or later all those brands will be supplied the EV tech, the underlying EV tech from NIO. And now imagine, how are you going to value them? Are you going to value NIO based on how many customers they have, or do you value them based on how many people sitting in the factory somewhere in China? So think hard about it and make your own decisions. For me personally, I'm currently adding to my position slowly but steadily because I know there will be other people coming after me who is going to do the same. So I'm basically let everybody know I'm front running those people. I know one day they're going to come in. I'm just publicly front running those people. And since my YouTube channel has been around for a while, you cannot say this is going to come to you as a surprise, right? You can't say I'm trying to rig the market by being on the internet for now almost 3 months and telling you to do exactly the same thing since 3 months. So you do what you need to do. But for me personally, based on everything I see on the ground, I'm extremely positive about the future perspective of this company. Ideally, it becomes a software company. That's the best I can say. All right, closing shot. I want to give you guys a proper view of the office, basically. Yeah. now at least you get an idea how it looks like. And if we do it well with NIO, we can have a party here maybe in a year or two. Who knows? All right. See you in the next video. Bye.